Hey everybody, and welcome back. We're going to be trying something a little different today. I kind of feel like playing one of the older city builder games I used to play when I was growing up, and I just so happen to have Caesar 3 here. It's old, but it still works. So we're going to go ahead and start a new career. We can't just be the new governor. That's terrible. We are the distinguished fish.
Let your governorial training begin. First, you must learn the basics of constructing Roman settlements. Build areas of housing, and you'll soon see people move into your city. You can click and drag the mouse to build lengths of path at once. Plan paths carefully, with as few intersections as possible, to ensure people will walk where you want them to. At every intersection, walkers must choose which way to go. Each intersection lessens your control over their actual routes.
Okay, so what we just had there was the typical begin of mission briefing, which was either delivered by Caesar or one of his underlings, we're not sure. But it gives us some goals up top here and some tips that pertain to the map or some challenges we'll face, or in this case, some basic tutorial stuff. I may or may not let those play. We'll see. I'm not even sure if this is going to be a series yet. But we'll go ahead and go to the city. And looking around here, as you can see, there's not much to this map. It's pretty small. Now, some quick basics are when you come into a map, you've got your mini-map, of course, your buildable buildings over here, your friendly neighborhood jackass down here, and some options and such up at the top. You've also got your city funds and your current city population, as well as the date, which can all be important. Your new immigrants moving in will come in at the red sign here, and if they leave, they will use the blue sign here to get away from your city. Now, in this map, with it being almost all within view without scrolling, that's not such a big problem, but on some of the larger maps, you want to take note of where the entry sign is, because it could take ages for changes to occur in your city. If you're short on labor and you build a big housing area, but it takes them 5 minutes in-game to walk over there, you can be sitting there for some time. So we are just going to clear out an area right here and begin construction of our city. We'll start with some housing. I think 1 block should be enough if I'm remembering correctly. If I do 5 by 5, yeah, it'll leave 1 space in the middle for a fountain or a well, as long as I wrap road all the way around it. So in theory, you can only build 2 from the road, so this one should disappear. And when it does, I'll drop a well in there to make sure that this whole area has water. There it went. So we see people beginning to move into our city, which is a good thing. Our population of 1, now 6, is a good thing. We need people to have a city functioning or to have anything but barren landscape. But there are some scripted events here we're going to be waiting on. But until then, we're just going to plow ahead. I can't build much at this point. Pretty much just roads, housing, and wells, which is actually pretty dismal. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and put in some more housing here. That's 4, that's 5 by 5. Certainly don't need that little extra spot there. And again, the middle one should disappear. When it does, I'll go ahead and drop a well in there. But we're pretty much just waiting on whatever happens next to teach us what to do. Because I suspect we won't hit 150 people living in our little burg here without some form of employment to attract them. And we're not going to do that. Change my mind. There is an undo button which will undo the last action only, and it's only available if it's lit up. So after a certain amount of time, you can't just click undo. That's really handy if you've placed a rather expensive building and didn't mean to. You can hit undo real quick and make things go back to being right as rain. I'm actually going to speed the game up just a touch so we can get this out of the way. Because I know what needs to happen next, and I can't do anything until it happens. I was hoping... Ah, there it is. Thank God. I thought I was going to have to do editing there. I'm joking. I actually love editing my videos out. That's part of the appeal for me. But we've had our first fire in the city. Something is no doubt ablaze. And in ancient Rome, instead of firemen or policemen, you had prefects. And they kind of served a little bit of both roles, as well as being citizen soldiers. They were kind of your National Guard, your fire department, your police department, all rolled into one. But they have a little building called a prefecture, and we need to build one so that he will go out. Now this is also beginning to explain the basics of messaging, as well as how buildings get their labor. So when I place the building, a little guy is going to walk out, and he'll wander about until he finds some housing. And if he doesn't find housing, he won't be able to provide labor to the building. Boy, we're just cruising. So we're going to go ahead and put one of those guys there. I think another one up here would not go amiss. So there he goes, going on to put out the fires. And if I right-click on this, it will tell me that there's rubble there of a house. Specifically, a large tent in that case, which can be very helpful later in the game when something is burned down somewhere and you've got major problems going on in your city and you can't remember what everything was, because it does get to be pretty finicky later with the larger cities. Huh, so he must have moved out into another house. But these guys will, and I'm going to slow the game back down so we don't run into the next event. But they'll walk around and patrol, and if I come up here under overlays, and I select risks and then fire, it will overlay my map with these little pillars telling me what the risk of that building burning down is. So as these guys walk by, that risk will go down to absolutely zero and it will disappear, and their little pop-up will say there's no likelihood of catching fire. So this building had some, and it's now gone. And as he's passing, these ones are coming back up. So we're going to head back to our regular view here. And any minute now, our next major problem for Roman cities, at least Caesar III's Roman cities, should present itself. And there it is. The first collapse. So, of course, the Romans were very well known for their advanced engineering and architecture. They built aqueducts and things to get water into their cities, and had these nice big temples and the nice big entertainment venues. And, you know, you look today at things like the Colosseum, and it's quite amazing that they were able to do this back in the time period they did with no heavy equipment or machinery or anything like that. But in our little city builder city, we owe the engineers responsibility for keeping all those structures intact and keeping them from falling down. So we're going to need to build some engineering posts. Now it's also given us access at this point to build the Senate, which will at this point not do much for us other than employ a crapload of people, which is good. And of course the prefecture is what fell down. Now my standard tactic is to build prefectures and engineering posts side by side, because they have roughly the same coverage. They'll wander about the same distance, and the rate of a check-in needed, in other words, the length of time a building can go before it either falls down or catches fire if somebody doesn't walk by, is about the same. So having them next to each other, I get pretty even coverage, and we don't have to worry too much about it. And I actually don't need to in this tiny little area. I'm just in the habit of spamming them everywhere to prevent fire. Now you'll notice I put these tents up, but nobody has moved into them. We've had no immigrants come in, and that is because we have no jobs in our tiny little town here. So even though it's against my better judgment, we're going to build the Senate and let it soak up some of that excess labor. 54%, good lord. So if you hover over it, and you can judge by the number of beggars how much unemployment there is. So it employed 26, it needed 30, but it's more or less operating, and our employment, or rather our unemployment, is 0. Now it does send out a tax collector, but as you might imagine, tents pay very little, if any, tax. So that's really kind of a moot point, but we'll let him go. And of course the ratings are available if you hover, as well as a quick glance at the flags will tell you where you stand in the order of culture, prosperity, peace, and favor, same as the pop-up. For this assignment, we don't even need to worry about that, because Caesar, in his rather slight, if you ask me, hasn't set any goals. He apparently didn't think we could meet them. So now we're here to pleasing the gods. And there are 5 gods, 5 Roman gods available for building temples to in Caesar 3. And the things to remember are they are incredibly jealous, and they can either make or break your map. And what I mean by jealous is you have to build an equal number of temples to each god, and to all gods. So if I build one for Ceres, I have to build one for Neptune, and one for Mercury, and one for Mars and Venus. If I do not, they will wreak havoc on my little city here, because they like to be even. They all like to get the same amount of respect. And we've just about met our goal of 150 people. In fact, I suspect we'll win about now. So there we go. Now we can accept our promotion and listen to the little victory dance at the end here. So I'll go ahead and let that play out for you. It's not very long. And then we'll tie a ribbon in this one.
Congratulations! You have grasped the basics to my satisfaction. In the interest of advancing your education, I have one more gentle assignment for you. Onward to Brundisium.
Okay. So that took us through the little congratulatory message from Caesar, and it also shows all your final achievements and ratings down here, including your final population and your final city funds. Now, later in the game, it's not so imperative that you have a lot of city funds left over, but let's just say Rome expects a good return on its investment, so they will give you starting money. And in pretty much every map after the next one, they do expect you to make whatever you need after that. So we're going to call that an episode, and we'll see how it goes, and I might make some more if I feel like it. So we'll catch you later.